You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
All right, what's up, Coaches Nation? Excited for another amazing episode on the Coach's Journey podcast. I'm Dr. Sherry Llewellyn, and this is my amazing co-host, Faisal Ansari. Today, we are going to talk about a really important topic that often comes up. This is near and dear to Faisal's heart as well, because he is actually in the process of growing this. And the topic for today is membership models. Now, this is a fantastic topic, even if you're at the beginning stages of coaching and you haven't even thought about doing a membership because you're still struggling to get individual clients. Or if you've been seeing individual clients for quite some time and you're thinking, oh, this could be a really good transition. So we're going to talk about some different ideas, some different strategies, some different theories around it, so you can pick and choose what might be the best for you in how you want to practice. So Faisal, kick us off with, a lot of people have been asking you about membership models, and I want you to start kind of unpacking for us kind of how you're thinking about this.
Awesome. Thank you, Sherry. Maybe we can start with what is the problem we're trying to solve here. And there are a few problems here to solve. From a business standpoint, the biggest problem I would say is the cash flow problem, because your business needs cash flow. If you don't have cash flow, you're not going to do anything. You're going to be just in survival mode, trying to look for clients. And there are ways to go around that. When we're selling packages, you can charge at a higher ticket price, and you can do that. But then you always have to kind of be ahead of the game with that. Is that, okay, I have 3 clients for the next 3 months charging at a higher ticket, then you should always be looking for clients, but then that's going to end at some point, or they might not re-up. So how do I move around that? How do I create consistent cash flow, whether it's on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis? Yeah. The way I look at it is the way schools work. Like, they have a consistent stream of clients always. It's like an open door kind of a system. So I think the best analogy that I saw was actually somebody promoting is that the difference might be assuming that you're at a point where you have a lot of clients, and this also solves the scalability problem too, is that there are clients waiting for you, but they're waiting for an elevator. And the elevator is already booked, but they can't get in, and sooner or later they're going to go somewhere else. Right. Compare that to more of like an escalator. Is that it's always revolving. There are people coming in constantly, and nobody needs to stop. You don't need to start the launch and stop the launch. You can consistently bring in clients, and there might be some clients that will leave. And ideally, you want to bring in more clients than the clients that are leaving. That will depend on your program. Also, you're creating a central place, and this is where the impact increases. A central place for your clients to come together, support each other. And this is also brings together the group coaching model, which is much more scalable. That you can do it in different ways, and I'll share how I do it. But you can scale it much, much better. And the other benefit that it has is that you don't need to start with 10 people. You can start with one person, to be honest.
Yeah. Which I think is completely outside of the thought process that most coaches have. So kind of unpack what that would look like, and how would one market it if it's only one, and what do you think that would, how that would go?
Originally, as I started running webinars, or more like live Zoom calls, and I did live group coaching. And then at the end, I would offer my program. And in the beginning, I didn't have that many. I had maybe 5 or 6 people sign up. And on average, sometimes one person would show up in the group. In total, 5 or 6, and I started with 2 groups. So it was divided between the 2 groups. And what I found out over the years is that if you have a group of 10 that you're running, you want to schedule at least 20 people in there, because about 50-60% will show up more regularly.
Okay.
16 to 20 people you want to have registered. So I had like 5 or 6 people registered. On average, there would be 1 person would show up. In the beginning, that would freak me out. I'm like, oh my God. But then over time, I saw that this person is getting a lot of value, because what they've done is they've paid for a group program, but they're getting one-on-one coaching a lot of times as they come into the fold. And that's okay. We might freak out, oh, well, I'm promoting this as a group. You don't need to. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to justify it. The person comes in, you serve them. That's it. And ultimately, what people care about is, are they served or not?
We actually had a similar scenario with a mastermind that my husband and I do around real estate investing. And, me as a business person, like, I want this really robust and active community with lots of people. But the challenge is, like, how do you start with that? Most of us as coaches, unless you have a waiting list that's a mile long, you're probably not going to start your group or your membership or whatever with that many people. And so I kind of had this mindset of a little bit of embarrassment that we're starting so small and starting with such a small group. And there was one time I asked for feedback. I said, hey, what do you love about this group? I just wanted to make sure that we were staying on track. And a couple of the people actually commented that they liked the fact that the group is smaller, because they got more specific and more dedicated feedback to them. So I just wanted to really echo Faisal's comment that being small, having 1 person, 2 people, or just a few, you might think is embarrassing, or is like, shows that you don't have this nice, great thing that you're trying to build, but it might actually be the other way around. They might actually appreciate it. So don't let that fear stop you.
Yeah, and that was a fear I had from the beginning. It didn't matter at all. Like the person would show up ultimately once I got over my own shit. And then the first few minutes, then I would just either we would jump into a topic that I prepared, or if it was one person, I would ask them, like, what would serve you to? Would you like to go into the topic that we've worked through? Or is there any area I can support you in? And this is around more like mindset coaching. This could be used for several different reasons. And I felt really good about it when I signed up for this 24K program. It was a group program. I go in, there were 3 people in the group. And my first reaction, I was glad that there were 3 because I wanted my questions answered. And go to the next one, there were 2, and then once in a while I would be the only one. It's a very high ticket program, and they didn't need to justify nothing. And from my perspective, I was glad that there weren't too many people. It was more of a business program, but I liked it. So now backtracking, because I know people are hearing this. Okay, what the hell are you talking about? We were mostly talking about the advantages, why this is important, why it's scalable. But how it might look like is, and I want you to think about it from 2 different angles. One might be an evergreen group coaching model, and I'll go into that. And the other one might be a hybrid coaching model. And I'm sure there are other ones there, but the idea is that you offer the program maybe as part of your one-on-one package, maybe as a bonus that all my one-on-one clients get it, or you offer it as a separate one. It raises the value of the program overall, but those who can't afford the one-on-one, they go into the group program with you. So the way it works is that the way I offer it, at least at this point, it's either a monthly membership or a yearly membership. And the yearly one, I give a good discount around close to 16%. So about 30-40% sign up for yearly annual, and which creates a good cash flow. Now, I've seen other models like that. What you can also do is, and I haven't done this myself, but my business coach does this, is that he takes about 50% upfront and the rest goes into the membership. So you have more of the deposit paid. I like that model. It's just I need to do some restructuring around it. But the idea is that once you get somebody's credit card or payment system, they're part of it. You're not asking to re-up or anything. As long as they're getting value in the program, they're part of it. They decide whether or not they want to be part of the program. And that's the evergreen model. And here's how it might work. So let's take mindset coaching as an example. So I start as a high performance coach, but any kind of mindset coaching falls into a few categories. So for example, there's how much clarity do you have in your life? What's going on with your relationships? What's going on with your emotions? What's going on with your productivity? What's going on with how you look at the bigger themes like purpose in your life? What's going on with how you're structuring your day-to-day habits in life? Like there's certain themes that come up for human beings. And the reason you can run it on a continuous is, let's say somebody joins at clarity, they will get value in that session, but they will get ongoing value. But let's say somebody joins in when you're talking about emotions, you're discussing that, they will get value from that. You don't need to backtrack to the last one because you will recycle the last session, and the discussions will be very different because the group dynamics is different. The people are different. Their thought processes are different at that point. So you can keep revolving the door around the themes and human awareness or human experience.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, Faisal, is that the content that you're delivering on this evergreen is not dependent. It's not building on itself necessarily. You don't have to have been here last week to understand what we're doing this week. One of the challenges that I am actively working through on our membership model, our mastermind membership, is that we have a combination of teaching as well as coaching. And so one of the things we're looking at doing, because if somebody jumps in, 3 months, 6 months after we kind of started for the year, they're behind the ball a little bit on some of the basics that we're teaching around real estate. And so I'm shifting to kind of conceptualizing having like an intro course, maybe just like 4 or 5 little videos that they can watch to get them up to speed on just like kind of the basics of things. So then that way, when they jump in, I'm not saying things or talking about things that are completely over their head and they kind of are up to speed. So just kind of wanted to share that that's one solution that we're looking at doing with the evergreen model when we still have content that they kind of going to need in order for things to make sense.
Yeah. So that will work better on the hybrid model. But I want to share the thinking behind it is even more important than intention behind it, because why do we create groups like this? If the purpose for us is to deliver information, it's probably not as valuable because they can pretty much take that. They can find all that information for free, no matter how complex you think it is, no matter how you're curating it a certain way in your own way, great. But they can find the same information for free anywhere. The whole purpose of live group sessions like this is to help clients implement this process, whatever it is, whether it's a mindset habit, whether it's they're trying to find clarity in their life, how can they implement it better? And on the real estate, and they're going to get information. Like every real estate program I've been a part of, they will go and binge on the information, but they don't do anything with it because information doesn't do anything unless you implement it. And usually implementation, the blocks around it is they have hesitations, they have confusions, they have fears, they have all sorts of things that need to be dealt with. And usually that gets dealt with in either one-on-one or group live sessions. So just going back to is that my intention is to help create transformation, not to give more information necessarily. Information will come into it naturally, but how do we get them to change behavior? Not to give more information. So having said that, for example, the way you're describing it, and even in CMC, the way we're thinking about our 90-day challenge is very similar. So at this point, we've kind of come up with 2 ways. So we do have a set of information they need to go through, for example, building their niche. Coaches are building their niche. So we don't need to go through the whole process of niche building every time. We can have a video recorded, have it in the members area, and they can go through it, and then they can show up to the session and we can support them with their specific questions. And we can create a conversation around it where other coaches who've had experience in this area, how they've dealt with it in real life. Now, it might happen is that you have a combination of different members, like some of them are new, some of them are more experienced, they don't need that. So it depends how you structure and how many members are there. If you have like 3-4 members in the whole group, you can literally structure it as a hybrid model. You can, let's say the new members come in, they have a set of training they go through, and then you just tell them to show up. We'll support you in whatever area you need support with. And even the advanced members could show up and they could learn from it, but you answer their questions separately. The way I've seen it, for example, in a business program is that there are two, if you have partners, this is helpful. There are two coaches in there. One of them goes into a breakout and answers the other question, and the other one stays and answers the question and helps generate a discussion around in the other room. Like there's so many other creative ways of doing things. Another way we've thought about it, for example, in CMC is that if we have new members coming in, they go to the one video every week and they come in, we support them in that area. But we might also have advanced members where we deal with a specific topic, but not at a basic foundational level. That would be another session where they can join us and discuss this thing. They already know the terminology. They've already gone through, for example, niche building, or let's say they're thinking about membership models. We create a discussion around how we can make it more implementable in what they've done. Like what are the challenges they're coming across? You can either combine these or run them separately. But as you think about this, there's so many ways of doing this that it shouldn't stop you from doing it. It's just that once you start, you find more creative ways of running the sessions. There shouldn't be a reason why you don't start something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the phrase clarity comes through action, that once you start down the road of creating a membership model, you're going to find that your exact clients are going to naturally gravitate towards a certain type of session, or there's going to be some needs or additional things you realize you can do to support them. So just be open and aware to what those ideas are, and you can pivot a little bit. But Faisal, as people are listening, as our listeners are listening, I have this sense that there's some who are thinking, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. Thinking about, a year from now, having this big group of having this big membership, I don't know how to get from here to there. So can we just break down the most basic and simple way to start a membership? Like if somebody was going to launch a membership this week and they haven't done anything yet, like what is the most simple and basic way they can get started?
It depends which program they come from. I'll do the evergreen model example. Let's say you're whatever kind of coach. Let's say you're a high performance coach or a conscious parenting coach or transformational coach, whatever it is. You have certain themes, let's say in the mindset area. So you have your high ticket. I would say keep that, your high ticket offer. This is where tiers come in, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But you have your high ticket offer, which is when people want to work with one-on-one. Ideally, you want to price that higher, and the group actually allows you to do that. You price it higher, and if they can't afford it, then you take them towards a group. Now, they don't know how many people you have in the group, and they don't need to know. You market it as, okay, and this is what makes it so simple. You don't need to create an elaborate launch campaign for this. You prospect the way you would prospect normally. Like whether you go have conversations with somebody one-on-one, you go into networking events, or you're running a webinar or a live coaching experience, or you're doing training for somebody and you're offering your program. All you need to do is be clear on your offer. What are you going to have in your group? So you're going to have group sessions, let's say once per week or every other week. I have it every other week. Now they will have access to worksheets, resources, whatever. They'll have access to recordings. They will have a Facebook group or whatever kind of group, whether it's the new ones that are coming up. What are they? I forgot the name.
There's Circle is one.
Circle and a couple other ones, whatever community area where people interact. So you're adding stuff in there for them to see that, okay, there are multiple levels of value that they're getting. Obviously, depends on the niche. For example, in my niche, for real estate investors, networking plays a big part on their journey. So adding a networking session raises the value of something automatically. But it depends on the thing. And another program might not add value. You just decide based on your niche. So you're just offering a few things. You have your offer cleared up. When you go talk to people, you do a strategy session, a coaching strategy session, and you can literally ask them, like, what kind of support are you looking for? Are you looking for one-on-one group? And you can also decide for them in a sense, is like, what kind of level do they need it? And do they need one-on-one or group? And then you offer it. And they get to decide between your higher tier or the group tier. And they show up. They don't need to know at what level you're at, how many people you have, or whatever. You send them the information, they sign up, they show up to the group, or they show up to the one-on-one. And from their perspective, they're just trying to solve a problem for themselves.
Yeah.
They don't care what the modality is. And so that's how you start it. Now you can, depending on your experience level, you might be more comfortable having one-on-one conversations initially, do that. Or you can run a live coaching or a webinar and you make the offer for the membership. Does that clarify?
It does, but I just wanted to add a little bit more in that you talked about having networking and you having a community, resource for whether it's Facebook or some other app. Those are things that are great and might be something you can aspire to, but you don't need that stuff in the beginning. All you simply need is your hour or 2 hours or whatever set aside every week and invite people to that as the membership. And you can let them know, hey, we'll be growing and building things to meet the needs as we go, but you don't have to commit to anything on the front end. Just this is it. And this is our expectation. So the rest of the stuff can come as you decide to develop it or have the time.
And also, there's another way you can approach it. Let's say you don't have anything else. You just have your coaching. Let's say you do coaching once a week or every other week. You can add a training session. Let's say we're talking about personal development. You can add a training session twice a month or 3 times or 4 times a month for, let's say, 30 minutes. And you run it live. You record it. And what I do is I will do 10, 15 minutes of training. And then the rest I do Q&A. The Q&A is a lot of value for people. So let's say I pick a topic around your psychology. I pick a topic around overwhelm. And then afterwards, they get to interact with me and the rest of the group if there are more members. But here's the cool thing about that. This actually helps me with my marketing too, because my bandwidth was stretching thin and I didn't want to do a lot of things everywhere. So the trainings that I do twice a month, I started doing it originally for a year. I did it once a week. Those trainings, while they're in my members area, they're also out in the world too. I break them down. They go in my social media and people have access to that training. And I don't have to do extra social media stuff. This becomes your content, and this will be some of the best content you'll create because you're actually interacting with people, you're answering questions, you're learning what works and what doesn't work. You can literally leverage your program to build content too. So you don't need to schedule a separate calendar and create it. And you will show up more because you have to do it because you promised.
Yeah, good point. There's lots of ways to be able to double duty the things that we're doing. And if you need to be the one to chop up and edit your videos to begin with, there's a lot of great products out there. I certainly will, if I need something done fast, I do it, quite frankly, because if I pass it off to somebody else, it's going to probably be a week or so just with who I've got set up right now. So I know that if I need, I'll do it. I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to do it quickly. And if you have questions about, apps and stuff like that, we can share some of that stuff that we're aware of or that we've used. But if you're serious about doing this long term, best strategy is to think about at what point can you hire somebody to do this for you? Because part of the point of the membership is because it's at somewhere along the journey as a coach, your bandwidth is going to be challenged. So if you're doing all of the legwork on this stuff as well during this whole time, that will just increase your challenge of your time and your energy that you need to spend in other areas of life. So just know that on the back of your mind, if you don't have it yet, having somebody to support you in doing these sorts of things is a critical piece of the growth and the scaling.
Yeah. And also thinking of it from a business standpoint, I learned this from a business person, I forgot who, but you either have time or you have money. It's rare that you have both working. And if it is, you have structured your life really well. But even if you have time, you have the rest of your life. You don't just have work in your life. So if you have time, just thinking about it from if you have time and you can spend it on editing videos, do that. But then even that, I will question that a little bit, because where else could that time go that might give you more of an ROI? So if you don't have enough clients and you don't have enough time and you're juggling between editing videos and reaching out to prospects, I would focus on prospects and find a way to pay for videos getting edited or do it less initially, because that's a long-term marketing strategy that the videos are not going to give you clients. The reach out will give you clients. And then as you develop a little bit more resources, so for me, I'm enjoying so much the fact that somebody is doing all this stuff. I'm not touching my social media for the most part. 80%, 90% of it is just, I do these videos. This is part of my day-to-day, week-to-week operation. I just send out the video and somebody edits it, chopped it up, puts it in 5-6 different social media places, and my work is done. It feels so good. I'm so happy to kind of pay somebody for that because it's so incredibly valuable to me. I waited for a while to do that. And my hesitations were what if I don't find the right person? All those hesitations are true, but find somebody in your network or somebody that has more credibility. It's definitely worth it if you're building something long-term, because those videos that you're putting out, blog posts that you're putting out, it might not give you the ROI in the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, but long-term establishes credibility. And as you start to go more towards scaling, then those videos are going to become really important. Those trainings are going to become really important for your path. And one of the most important things I've learned is think long-term, not short-term, because short-term we can do a lot of things, but what's the long-term ROI for whatever you're doing? And usually in business, there are very few key areas that will give you the biggest ROI. For example, this is the basic foundations of business. Sales will give you the biggest ROI. Marketing will give you the biggest ROI. How your community and systems run gives you the biggest ROI. Doing little things on your own, for example, editing videos or designing stuff might be enjoyable. And if you enjoy it, great. But is it really building the business that you're trying to, the impact you're trying to create? Yeah. And then that's something for everybody to kind of think through, what matters to you ultimately.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things to balance in business, and this has been across all of our businesses that I've ever been a part of, as well as what I see in other people, is when does that balance shift from I've got more time and now I've got more money? Because I'm a very firm believer in when you're starting a business, don't go into debt. I've seen way too many people have this unrealistic optimism. I'm it'll all work out. And then they dump a bunch of money into the business and then it tanks and now they're left to pay off this bill that they have nothing to show for it. And so, that's just my own value around business is don't go into debt. And so it's this difficult balance of, when have I made enough money to be able to pass off that? Because there's a little bit of pain in there, which is why we are hesitant. There is pain to have to pay out, especially if you're kind of on the cusp of being just barely profitable. Then the thought is if I then pay somebody else, I'm no longer profitable. So how quickly is that ROI going to come back? How long am I going to be in this limbo where, I'm uncomfortable because of the cash flow or lack of? So I have yet to hear of somebody offer me the exact framework and solution for that, but it just is a reality. So be cognizant of it, kind of be thinking about it, having conversations with other people about it. That's really important in my book.
I think it has so many factors in it, but I would say at least in the coaching world, but generally speaking, in business, I agree with you. It's you need to create some revenue. If you're not creating revenue, there's no point in you trying to go hire a bunch of people to do things for you, because you probably have time. You probably have time to work through stuff. And if you're utilizing your time properly, you're focusing on the 20% of the things that will actually give you the biggest ROI. And initially, if you don't have money and you've started a business, then the most important things become you're reaching out to people. You're going out there training, you're going out there reaching out to people, you're asking them to jump on conversations with you, you're making offers. If you're not doing that, all the other things like video editing and complicated programs and stuff don't mean anything. I wouldn't even say go towards this model, because figure out to get a couple of clients and have some revenue coming in, then you can take a breather and step back and look at your business as a more strategic thing, because you're in survival mode. You're not going to think about strategy as much.
Yeah, those are great recommendations. So membership model, we've got a couple that we talked about. There's the evergreen, there's kind of the hybrid. Of course, as Faisal said, there's plenty of other, it could be, you could have a hybrid of the hybrid.
There's so many ways to do this.
It's endless. It really is only based on your level of creativity that you can come up with something. Sometimes there's book clubs as part of a membership model. Sometimes it can be live events, depending on if you have more local people or if the membership cost is enough to support something that they have to travel to. Really the sky's the limit, which as a high performance coach, Faisal and I know that creativity is a drive in life that if we're going to have the most fulfilling life as a coach, we've got to be able to do things that allow us to have an immense amount of creativity. And so sometimes we may not think about structuring our business as an act of creativity, but it totally can be. So have fun with this. And maybe just like, in an ideal world, what would, like, fast forward, in an ideal world in 5 years, if I had no limitations, what would I want my membership to look like? And have fun with it. Every month we're going to be taking sabbatical trips to Fiji and we're going to mastermind for an entire week. Like, have fun with it. And then backtrack. You're like, okay, well, if I really want to be able to travel 1 week out of every month to an exotic location to hold a mastermind for my membership, reverse engineer it, backtrack it. Okay, well, who's the kind of person that would want to do that? What value are you going to offer? How could you incrementally grow your business in a way that's in that direction? So have fun, but don't get overwhelmed. Think about it and balance that with what's the one thing that you can do now to get the membership going. Having conversations and having a time when your group session is going to be. Those are kind of the two most important things, right? You got to have time to funnel people too, but then you got to have the conversations to get the people to funnel. So I think it's kind of just those two basic things to think about: having the conversations, sharing the information, and having the event.
Yeah. And like, this can get more complex as we talk about this, but it's not necessary. And one of the things that we do, for example, in CMC, I did a whole session where I shared the background of like how I've structured this on my platform. How do the notifications go? How does it interact with the community page? How do I get people engaged in the community? Like all this, I literally show everything behind the scenes of like how I'm doing things. It's hard to do that on a podcast. The whole point of like having a community is that we share what's working for us, and maybe this won't work for you. But as we share more ideas around this stuff and you see how it's working in the real world, you can create your own creative way of approaching this. Like a lot of this stuff, nobody like told me the way I'm sharing it. It's like, oh, you should create this model. I actually just learned from experience. I kind of picked and chose from different people running different ways. And then I'm like, I think this will work for me in this way. Mm-hmm. And I experimented with the model in so many different ways until I ended up here. And right now I actually have, at this point in the past few months, I'm running an evergreen plus hybrid model together in my community. And I'm still experimenting. I don't know how it will work. And my goal is to kind of make it more scalable and having a community where people can get any kind of coaching that they need. And I was sharing with Dr. Sherry is that I'm actually combining different expertise that coaches might have, and I'm offering a very big package to a set of clients. And I'm able to do that because I've experimented with different things and I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And it gives me the confidence to create packages that I don't need to. And this is what makes coaching so much better than a lot of other businesses in some senses, that you're not selling toothpaste. You can charge it at a higher level because people are generally getting a very high value. You might have to get out of your own head thinking that, oh, why would people want to pay for this? Because it's common sense to you because you've been working on this for the past 10, 15 years. But once you create it, you don't need to have 1,000 people in your membership. With just a few people, you can create a 6-figure income. Mm-hmm. Just a handful of people in your community, if you're charging at the right level and you're running it in a good way, you're delivering value. And I want to stress on that is that people need to get value. If they're not getting it, you will see it. Usually the customers decide whether or not your program is valuable. If they're not getting value, they'll leave the program. Yeah. And then you can reassess, and that's just data for you. So however you start it and you will see, like Sherry said, you'll get clarity as you move forward.
Absolutely. So as you're listening to this, I hope you're getting excited. I hope your mind is ripe with thoughts of opportunity and like, oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. It's like going to the apple tree and picking which apples look good. It's your choice in getting how you want to build this and how you want to roll it out. But simplicity always wins. So don't overthink it. Start simple and you can always add to it. Just like a good cheesecake. Start basic and simple. Once you get that recipe down, then you start adding all the fancy stuff, the chocolates and the fruits and all the drizzle and the cream and stuff like that. Make sure you have the basic recipe down first, because that could very well be what's holding you back, is thinking you need to create this monstrosity of a thing, but you don't even know how to create the basic recipe of it. And as you're listening to this, as you start to make progress and do the stuff, we would love to hear about it. I mean, think about it. What you want to do as a coach is have impact. Faisal and I are the same way. What we want to do with this podcast is simply have impact, deliver information that excites people, that people can act on, that will change their life, change their coaching business. And so let us know what you're doing and how you're applying this content to your coaching business, because that will excite us.
Yeah, definitely. And please reach out to us. Like, if question, like we have a free Facebook group, you can definitely join that. We'll have the link is actually below this post if you're watching on Facebook, but anywhere else you will see the links there too when it's edited. But the main thing is you don't need to be part of our paid membership for you to reach out for support. I've talked to, at least in the past 2 weeks, I've talked to 3-4 coaches who had questions around prospecting, around how their sales process is working. I'd love to help. If I feel like, or if we both feel like you need ongoing support, you can join our community. But don't feel like you need to do this alone. There are a lot of amazing coaches who would be happy to support you, whether coaches in our community, or you can reach out to us personally. We would be able to give you feedback on what you're doing. Please do that. So either go to our website, it will redirect you to different areas, coachingmastercommunity.com, or to our Facebook link, which will be below. I don't know off the top of my head, but it will be something.
Search out Coaching Mastery Community on Facebook. Yeah. In the groups. But I think it's the like Facebook/groups/Coach Mastery Community, because somebody already had coaching. Like, I don't know. So
what?
I know. How dare they? So Coach Mastery Community, I think, is the Facebook. But either way, you will come find us and ask or submit a request to be part of our Facebook group. And then you can ask all the questions and get to meet a bunch of other great coaches.
Yeah, from around the world. And also feel free to share your thoughts on this post or video or audio, wherever, and make sure you like and share it with other coaches. We'd love to add more value. So if you had any thoughts about the continuation of this conversation or other topics you want us to discuss, please share. And we'd love to bring that topic into our podcast. And we'll see you next week, same time.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.